In the final days of an immensely garbage 2020, we have received a tiny nugget of shining, long-awaited good news. Provided, of course, you are one of the many fans of the wildly popular Neon Genesis Evangelion franchise. After multiple delays and nearly a full decade after the release of the last film in the series, Evangelion 3.0+1.0, Thrice Upon a Time, has finally finished being developed. This was officially confirmed by a tweet from Studio Khara, which stated, December 17th, 2020, 8:10 a.m. All shooting and editing work in the studio is complete. Director Ono went directly to every section of the company to report that the work had been finished, and we are overjoyed at having reached the end of the project. This film will complete the Evangelion Rebuild series, and is also stated to be the final entry in the long-running Evangelion series by Hideaki Anno. The news that the movie has been finished is obviously fantastic, as I, and a lot of other people, have been waiting for this for a very long time. But even more excited than the fact that the movie exists somewhere in a finished state is the notion that we might finally get some answers to some of the series' longest-running mysteries. And as part of that, many of us may have our personal fan theories either confirmed or dashed. Theories about Evangelion have followed the franchise like stink on crap since the series started in the 90s. But one of the most pervasive theories centers around the Rebuild movies and how they might relate to the original series. Before we get into that though, let me very quickly recap the history of the franchise. Neon Genesis Evangelion began as an anime series which aired in 1995 and quickly gained a large following due to its dark themes and confusing, somewhat abstract ending. This was followed by Neon Genesis Evangelion Death and Rebirth, a special which contained footage from the original series, as well as the first 30 minutes of a new, incomplete ending, because that sure cleared things up a lot. A few months later, we got to see the full version of this new ending as the feature film, The End of Evangelion. But depending on who you're talking to, this film is either A, what is taking place in the physical world, while the ending of the TV series is what is taking place in the characters' minds, B, set in an entirely alternate universe from the original, or C, a sellout way of succumbing to fan demands for a logical conclusion. Among many other theories, but most people take this film as the proper ending for the series. Anyways, the film was more conclusive than the series, but the ending was still a little confusing. The Rebuild of Evangelion movies began in 2007 with Evangelion 1.0, You Are Not Alone. This film recapped the first few episodes of the original series with a much higher production value and mostly seemed to be a reboot. That is, until the second film came out, Evangelion 2.0, You Cannot Advance. This film introduced new characters and plot points that steered the films away from the path set by the original series. This resulted in Evangelion 3.0, You Cannot Redo, being an entirely new story that left fans with even more questions than ever before. Now here's the odd thing about the rebuilds. Even though the story didn't veer away from the original until Evangelion 2.0, fans began suspecting as early as the release of EVA 1.0 that these new movies were not a reboot, but instead a direct sequel to the events of End of Evangelion. The sequel theory is one of the most commonly discussed aspects of the modern EVA franchise, and it has a lot of compelling evidence both for and against it. I won't go into a ridiculous amount of detail on that here because 1, that would be heavy spoilers for Evangelion, and 2, there are much better videos that delve very specifically into that topic. But just to give an idea of the type of evidence that fans noticed immediately, the oceans in the Rebuild movies are an odd shade of red, a change which didn't occur in the original series until the events of End of Evangelion. Likewise, there's a large red stain on the surface of the moon in the Rebuild films, a stain which, again, didn't appear until End of Evangelion in the original series. There's much more info on this theory available, but you get the idea. Aside from the content of the films that are already out, however, I think there are a few hints hiding for us in the name of the new film. The final Evangelion Rebuild film is titled Evangelion 3.0+1.0, Thrice Upon a Time. This doesn't at all follow the naming conventions of the previous 3 films. If it did, it would just be Evangelion 4.0. So why make it 3.0+1.0? The name implies a connection between 3.0 and 1.0, between the new story of 3 and the familiar beginnings of 1, a merge between an end and a beginning, kind of like a loop. And if we pair that with the idea that the rebuilds are actually a loop back to the beginning after the events of End of Evangelion, this new name lends some credence to that theory. Or it at least implies that the new film will connect back to 1.0 in some meaningful way. Further, there's the second part of the title, Thrice Upon a Time. If this is the 4th film of the rebuilds, then why thrice? It could refer to the third impact, which is a major event that's referenced throughout the series, but that doesn't feel right as a major part of the title of the final film. With this film being the end of the Rebuild timeline, I think there's another possible meaning for Thrice Upon a Time. This is the third ending that we've seen for the story of Evangelion. The first was the TV series, the second was End of Evangelion, and the third is the one that we will witness in this new movie, Thrice Upon a Time. But let's take that farther. What if this is not only the third time the audience is experiencing an end to the Eva story, but also the third time that the characters within it are reaching an end? This would mean that the TV series, End of Evangelion, and the Rebuild movies are all separate loops of the same events, with the end of one loop leading into the beginning of the next. 3 endings, 3 timelines, Thrice Upon a Time, but one connected, looping story. I haven't seen much discussion of the new title aside from people chalking it up to Anno's quirkiness, if you want to call it that, so let me know what you think of the title down below. But again, all of this is just fun speculation until the film releases. There are as many theories about what's actually going on in Eva as there are people who have seen it. But with this being the series' final installment, and with Anno's penchant for twisting expectations, I think there's going to be a few surprises in the new film for even the most dedicated of fans. We'll find out for sure when the film releases in Japan next month. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, it really does help me out a lot. And check out the official 14Spoons merch store and Discord server down in the link below. Until next time, I have been Spoons, and thank you for watching.